Welcome to the HVAC Financial Freedom Podcast, a show where we talk about HVAC business ownership and financial freedom by sharing stories and advice of experts who can help you get there. Now your host, John Victoria.
Hello and welcome to the HVAC Financial Freedom Podcast. This is John Victoria, your host, and today we have an incredibly exciting episode for you. Today, I think it's special because this is the first time we're having a podcast episode and our guests are on a boat in a partnership. First time this has ever happened. So I'm excited for that. And our guests are Justin and Kristen Deese. And just a quick background on them. Kristen is a business coach and certified behavioral consultant who helps businesses grow by strengthening the behind-the-scenes framework and communication strategies within the organization. After 20 years of business ownership with her husband and business partner, Justin, she uses coaching as her vehicle in which to serve others. And she also has a virtual CFO program found at KristenDeese.com. And then Justin is a serial entrepreneur who thrives in business sales and the leadership arena. His love for small business is evident through the many companies he started, bought, sold, and led. Together, Kristen and Justin are a business growth force to be reckoned with. They have experienced the ups and downs of running a business while keeping their marriage alive and are sharing what they have learned with the world. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Awesome, and I think there are some celebrations in order as well. Kristen, it was your birthday this week.
It was my birthday, and this is the last day of the month, but I celebrate all month long. So
Awesome. And as a birthday gift, the partnership, that was part of the birthday as well, right?
That is.
Yes. Yeah. We've had multiple boats before, but this is the first one that we can spend the weekend on.
Yeah.
So it also happens to be a great sound booth. So here we are.
That's awesome. And how does it feel? Just, the boat and the birthday, the birthdays are such a monumental time of the year. And so how does it feel like entering this next chapter of your life?
So obviously it feels great. And the fact that we're even sitting here on a Friday afternoon recording a podcast on our boat is pretty stinking cool.
Yes.
So it's life is pretty good.
Awesome. And one of the things that I also want to mention is that the life that you're living now, it's one that was intentionally designed. And that's something that I admire about both of you. So the book that you both wrote, When Your Business Partner is Your Spouse, How to Have a Successful Business and a Happy Marriage, in the book, and I'd love to get into the story right now as well, where you first started was completely different than where you are today. I remember, I think you both met when you were teenagers, right? 17,
Right.
19 years old, starting off as young professionals. And then Justin, you were let go. And at that moment, you had a choice whether or not to, find another job or to start your own business. And I know that Kristen, you were feeling a bit shaky about that. Is that something that we should do? That sounds a bit risky. And so maybe to kick things off, I'd love to maybe start off with that story and your perspective, because I love the book and it's written so well, but I'd love to hear it from both of you, that initial story of your origin story, really.
So for me, that was the actual only real job I ever had, like an adult job, like a cell phone, laptop, business card.
Tie.
Yeah, tie.
Okay.
It was a real job. And I was probably 20 at that point. And a lot of things were going on in the world. The industry I was in kind of had a complete shutdown in 2001. And when it did, a lot of the guys, we all got laid off. And I remember driving, because I remember thinking, I got fired. And one of my buddies was like, no, you got laid off. I'm like, it feels the same. It feels the same. I don't feel any different than whatever. And so I remember driving home and I said, I don't know, like, what is this going to look like? So for clarity, I stopped and got a 12-pack of beverages and went home and sat out on the porch. And I don't know. I just kind of thought about what is the future going to look like? Because I didn't really like the job anyways. I didn't like having to be in the same place every day, every minute, every hour. So that was kind of the and you were panicked because we had just bought a house.
Yeah, we had just bought our first house, so we were brand new in our first mortgage, and I was like, oh my gosh, how are we going to make this house payment that we just bought? And we didn't have any kids yet at the time, but it was stressful. And so of course I was like, okay, cool, well, you're going to go get a job, right? And he's like, no, I don't think so. I was like, oh, okay.
Oh my gosh, I imagine that was. I mean, that initial leap is the scariest leap. It takes an act of courage to do that, because, you know, at that time, right, there was really no plan at the time when you made that decision. But I think, and I noticed this in a lot of entrepreneurs, there's a seed of wanting to be able to, you know, take control of your life. And it sounds like because you were employed by someone else, it felt like your destiny was out of your hands, and that's something that you didn't want to really go along with.
Ever again. Yep. I was not ever going to be in that position. And plus for me, I got a severance package. I don't remember what it was, a couple weeks. And I thought I could figure this out in a couple weeks.
Yeah. What do they say about entrepreneurs? If they jump out of a plane without a parachute, they build a plane on the way down.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And so from that moment, so how did the initial stages of the business journey look like? I remember you were first, I think you were a recruiter, and then things transformed to other things. Like, what did that initial first few years look like for the business when you started it?
Well, the initial company, like one of the companies from that, I was working for a recruiting agency that specialized in telecom. And I remember when the whole thing was kind of starting to topple a little bit, going to the leadership of this company and saying, hey guys, you know, nothing. Of course I was 19 or 12. I was probably 20 at this point. I'm going, hey guys, nothing happens in the world until a sale happens. And most of them were like kind of patting me on the head, and they were like, okay, kid, why don't you go make calls? I'm like, make calls for who to what? So kind of a little bit of a journey. It went from, I said, okay, when I got laid off, that's what I started doing. I started recruiting for salespeople because I felt like that was what the world was going to turn to next. And so I started doing that, and that in a very odd way turned into installing dishwashers.
Oh,
There might have been a few steps that we glazed over
Yeah,
in between, but yeah, I mean, recruiting for sales is similar to trades in that it's that skilled labor basically.
Right.
But then once we stepped 2 feet into trades, we have not looked back since then.
Right. And that's been
amazing.
Almost 20 years now.
Yeah.
Almost 20 years.
Yep.
And for you, what was that differentiating factor? The trades versus doing something else? Was there something that just attracted you? Was there, maybe it's just something intrinsic, or because it's like, I'm going to plant my flag here. That's a big decision.
I mean, it would be really cool if it was that glamorous, but it totally was not. It was kind of almost accidental, right place, right time type thing.
Yeah, it was 100% accidental.
You were like at one of the big box retail home improvement stores, and they asked if you knew how to install a dishwasher. And so you said, yeah, of course, totally do, which you did not. It was fine. And that somehow morphed into contracting vendor contractor, to where we started doing appliance installs, kitchen appliance installs. And that went from one big box retailer to the next one. And then it kind of just started snowballing after that. But it didn't take him long to realize that he was not the technician.
No, I was definitely not the technician guy.
Yeah. And it was before YouTube was a thing too. So it wasn't like you could just pull YouTube out and be like, okay, how do I install a dishwasher? So that was fun.
So when I was standing in this aisle, this guy was, I don't know, he was trying to fix a problem, and I walked over and I was helping him because it was a problem I had just fixed. And there was a guy behind me who said something asked me a question about installing a dishwasher. Yeah. And he brought me back, and I met this other guy. And next thing I know, I had a contract, and I went home. And I told Kristen, I was all excited. I was like, we got a contract. We're about to start a new business, and here's what we're going to do. And she said, but you don't know how to do that. I said, you know what? That's a good point. I'll be back. I went to the store, bought a dishwasher, came back to the house, And I don't know, 7-8 hours later, that puppy was in.
He tried to put lipstick on a pig by giving me a new dishwasher. Oh, no, don't worry. You're going to get a new dishwasher out of this, which was cool. But it took him 8 hours to install this new dishwasher. And I'm thinking, based on what they want to pay you to install a dishwasher, you're going to net 50 cents an hour. So I don't know if this is going to work out very well.
Which is fine. So then we had to, the neat thing about starting out in that industry is, one, that I'm not a technician. So I think a lot of people, when they are in our space, they start out as the technician and then they go into their own business. And I think sometimes the trap of that is to go out and fix whatever the problem is. I didn't have that as an option, which, there's a lot of good to that and there's a lot of bad to that, but I was forced to go find people that were way better at me than me to do that kind of stuff. So that was really a blessing to
not be the technician.
And sort of a curse, but yeah, because it forced us to fix problems through people and systems versus just a wrench.
Yes, and that's definitely a problem I've noticed with a lot of the contractors we've spoken with. It's like you said, making that transition from being a skilled technician to being a true business owner, because they had those skills and can fix and turn a wrench. That's the default. Versus, like you said, how do we build a culture? How do we empower people? How do we find the right people? How do we retain those people? And then acting through that. And it's like a mindset shift that people have to make to do that. But so you started that, and you had a lot of success at the beginning. So you grew to, I believe it was around a $5 million a year company, but even though you got there, there were some troubles, right? It was, there was potentially some worries about payroll. There was, maybe we're not taking as much home as we expected. Can you talk to me about that situation and then what that looked like and kind of what got you out of that? That, because I imagine a lot of business owners feel that, right? It's that tension of, we're bringing all this money, top line looks amazing, but where's the money at the end of the month? There's more than money.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, challenge that people have is they view success by the size of that company, right? So we grew it. We had multiple offices. We had a lot of people that worked for us. And so top line, we were on fire.
Bottom line, not
but
so
everything
much.
after that, it was like, where is everything? And that was a little bit of a roller coaster, because you'd look at the sales. I would get really excited. And then we would sit down to meet about financials. And then I'm like, what happened? What happened?
Yeah. I mean, the number one rule in business is to make more than you spend. And there was a lot of times that we were breaking that number one rule. And we weren't even spending it on ourselves. I think that was the thing that was so frustrating, is we were just trying to keep the business afloat. So we've got payroll and we've got insurance and we've got taxes and we've got all these things. And we're not even at the end of the day pulling any money out of the business.
Right.
And so it was demotivating, but motivating all at the same time. Frustrating for sure, but then also motivating in a way that you just keep hustling, right? Like you keep that hustle because you don't have a choice but to do that. And then we got to a point where I know I for sure was, I think he was probably there with me, is, okay, we either need to figure out how to do this the right way, or we need to quit and go get a job, because this is insane. We're working 1,000 hours. We're not making any money. We only had one small child at that time. It just was too much. Like, it was just super stressful. And we were kind of at that breaking point. And the last ditch effort was to get a business coach.
Yes.
So, okay. A little bit before that too, part of the challenge when people start a business is you don't know what you don't know. And because you don't know what questions to ask. So for us, we didn't even know what that looked like. Right. So we have all these people coming to us all the time, asking us questions, got to know the answers. And at the end of the day, we didn't know, but like you said, there was no YouTube. So I don't even think there wasn't even a Google at that point. So we didn't even know where to go, who to ask, what questions. It was a rough spot. And then, because the truth is, nobody is born knowing how to run a business. And I think so many people go, oh, you guys know everything about a business. we know more now, but that's because we went and did the wrong things for so long that eventually you go, okay, that didn't work. That didn't work. That didn't work. So it's kind of like Thomas Edison he found 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb correctly before he finally made a light bulb.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. And that business coach. So that prior to that, it was, I mean, you had to do a lot of things, and this was like a last ditch effort almost, like, hey, we need to hire someone who potentially could be a guy that can take us to where we want to go. And I think that moment of enlisting the help of a coach can be a very vulnerable moment, because
Yes.
I've noticed it for myself. I have to acknowledge that, hey, I probably don't know everything, and I need some help. Like, things are not going the way that I want. I need the help of someone who might have walked the path before or have some insights to get me to where I want to go. And I think that could stop some people too, right? It's not getting to that crisis moment. Could you talk on how does someone who they might be a bit resistant, or they're afraid to really open up their books and show, like, this is really what's going on. Everything's on fire. My hair is on fire. The business is on fire. It's a scary moment. If you were to coach someone to getting a coach, like, what would you say to that person?
That's probably a better you question.
I mean, in order for a coach to be effective, you have to be coachable. Mm-hmm. So you have to be in a point in your business or in your life where the fear of the vulnerability is less than the actual pain that you're going through in your business, right? So there was an analogy that somebody said at one point along the way that said something about a dog sitting on the porch on the nail.
He said, why didn't he move?
Because it doesn't hurt bad enough. Okay, well, that person is not ready for coaching yet.
Right.
So you got to get to that point where it's like the vulnerability of coaching is pales in comparison to whatever it is that you're going through in your business, and you're just ready to solve it.
I see. So so there's some scale, there's the pain of being vulnerable versus the potential, pleasure of living the life and building the business that you actually would like to live and to exist with.
Yeah.
I love that. And could you talk about, so when you first hired your coach, like, what did that process look like? I know that there were probably a few exercises that you had to do, but what did those initial stages of work with the coach look like?
So my first challenge to overcome was the financial part of it, like the paying the money
that we didn't have.
We didn't have. So I remember thinking, that's a lot of money. How are we going to do that? But again, we were at such a breaking point that it didn't matter. Like we were gonna be all in or all out. Like that was it. It was all in or all out. So that was the first big challenge. Was the financial for me, the financial part. The second part was the time. Because I think it's easy to say there's not enough time. I think as business owners, it's easy to, there's not enough time.
Always another thing to do.
You always make time for the things that are important to you. And you convinced me by voluntolding me that it was worth my time.
I mean, it's that idea of working in your business versus on your business. And he was so in the business that even the thought of stopping that for just a little bit, an hour, and working on the business it felt like it was more than what could happen. Maybe the whole place was going to burn down in that hour. Who knows? But it was definitely, and it's a significant mindset shift to change from working in the business to on the business. And it's hard to do that with a flip of a switch. It takes a little bit of ramping up period sometimes. And our business coach was basically like, we can sit here and talk all day long, but until you actually make the commitment to work on the business, nothing's going to work.
Yeah.
And that was a big hurdle, probably I think more for you than for me, but only because he's the one who's frontline with the technicians, and he's frontline with the stores, and he's frontline with the customer service people. And I'm kind of behind the scenes doing numbers and spreadsheets and stuff. So I'm like, can't you just do it? Like, can't you just mark off an hour and think about the business instead of working in it? And he's like, no. But yeah, those were the financial, and then the mindset shift of working on the business was probably the two toughest things at the beginning. Because, and I tell this to my clients all the time, coaching is heavy lifting on the client's part. A coach is not a magic pill. A coach is going to help you, guide you, and give you some pointers and give you some ideas and suggestions and help you brainstorm. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to do the heavy lifting and to do the things in your business that need to get done. And if you're not willing to put in that effort, then you're not going to get a whole lot of where with any coaching, no matter who it is.
That's like the Yoda, Luke Skywalker analogy, right? Yoda can't fight all the battles. Luke has to walk and do all the battles himself. He has to walk the hero's journey. You can give all the advice you want, but like you said, you have to be open to that coaching, and then make the time to actually do it. And I can imagine like why it was so tough, because right, if the financials were off and now we have to spend more, plus I'm spending time away from serving customers. It's this vicious cycle of never getting to work on the business because we need to work in the business. And until it was that breaking point, that pivot point, that's the time when things actually could change. And one of the things that I loved, and you mentioned it in the book, was one of the first exercises you did with your business coach was before we got to solving a lot of the day-to-day problems, which, Justin, it seemed like that's the thing that you wanted to solve, right? There's these fires. We need to put these fires out. The coach was like, no, we don't want to put out the fire. We need to first design the future and what that looks like 3 to 5 years from now, far from the fires of today. And could you talk to me about like what some of those, I guess, what was that process like? Because it's so proactive and in the future, and some people can think it's very woo woo. It's all out there, but it seemed like that was an important first step. And that's what your business coach wanted you to do. So could you speak about that visioning process and how it helped?
So for me, it became an accountability piece for me. Being an entrepreneur, it's so easy to say yes to every opportunity. Once we had everything laid out, it was our roadmap. So anytime an opportunity came up, it forced us to sit down together and say, yes, we're going to change our vision to go after this opportunity, or no, we're not. And I think that was pretty powerful to kind of take a break for a minute. So it wasn't me making crazy, rash decisions
You don't never do
or you, but yeah, I think that was the biggest trick to it, is just it became an accountability piece for us.
I think it was difficult for me to be able to think and dream about what could be possible in 3 to 5 years when I felt like we were in over our heads at that moment already anyway. It was really hard to step back and kind of have that bigger, higher level view at that time. And so there was 2 exercises that she had us do that kind of helped put things into perspective a little bit. One of them was the ideal day. The ideal day exercise was kind of on that minute level. What do I want my ideal day to look like? And what do I want to be doing? And who do I want to be around? And I was like so overwhelmed at that point that I couldn't even think of that. I had to think about what I didn't want anymore to even start to think about what I did want. And so I made a whole list of all the things I didn't want anymore. And then that was enough to clear out some brain space to then say, okay, well, now what do I want for my ideal day? And so that was kind of a cool exercise to do from that lower level daily thing. And then the second exercise she had us do was she had us write our own eulogy. And that was an interesting exercise in that it makes you take all of these little things that you were just fretting over that you didn't want or you do want or whatever, and it just like mutes.
It's not a big deal anymore.
It blurs all that out, mutes all of that noise and all that chatter, and shows you at the end of the day like the big things that are really important. So it was a really neat range of exercise to go from very small to very big. And that was kind of what we needed in order to be able to start thinking into the future and what do we actually want out of the business and what's really important at the end of the day. And
it had nothing to do with P&L statements.
It was crazy. I know.
Crazy. Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, death can be a very sobering thought, and a lot of the minutiae of today, it falls to the wayside. And I love how your coach directed you, hey, what's ideal day, but also, the end of your life. How do you want to be remembered by? What do you want others to say about you? It's it's a very sobering thing. And I think a lot of us don't think about it, but it sounds like that's something that's very clarifying, how you should live your life now in order to get to that end result. And so one thing I thought could be fun as well, since I do have the book here, if you guys are open to it, I can, for people who have not written a eulogy before, would you mind if I shared just very briefly the
Sure.
eulogies that you wrote?
Yeah.
Awesome. So the first one will be for Kristen. So yeah, your eulogy says, Kristen became a person who took all the best qualities of her parents and grandparents to become her own intelligent, loving, respected, and strong individual. She was always devoted to her projects, whether they be at home or work. It was amazing to see how she successfully balanced herself, her family, and her business, neither struggling from her lack of attention. Kristen was always educating herself, always asking why or how. She loved to take things apart and make things with her hands. She was an excellent hostess and entertainer. She always enjoyed inviting loved ones into her home for good food and fellowship. She loved adventure, so much so that when her children were in high school, she and Justin were cast on the then popular reality show called The Amazing Race. Amazing. That's
We got 2 more years. No, we got.
and you won. And you won. Which, and that showed just a tidbit of your remarkable marriage, and she was strong and active up until the day that she died. She always encouraged everyone around her to be their best, physically, mentally, and emotionally. While she will be dearly missed, everyone who had the opportunity to get to know Kristen can take away a warm memory and know that she was completely ready to leave this world, knowing the ones she touched are a little better off because of her.
Now, how long ago did we write that?
Like 8 or 9 years ago, I think.
Yeah, my guess would have been 10 years.
Yeah.
Would you change anything about it?
I don't think so.
I don't think you would either. Which that's still hard to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yes.
even writing it, but it is a good reminder.
Love it. And Justin, now I'll read yours off too. So for Justin, here lies a wonderful husband and father, a man that worked hard and played harder. Justin was someone who was never afraid to go against the grain to achieve his objective. His favorite poem was The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost, and I believe it described his life and how happy he was about the chances he took and the path he chose in life. He was a well-respected leader in the community, but also someone who not lived just a good life, but a great life. Would use the following objectives to describe him: loyal, honest, open-minded, great listener, passionate, giving, optimistic, humorous, and most of all, fun-loving. Justin lived a very fortunate life, and with his vast amount of wealth, he was able to help many people. He was also able to see the world with his family and able to be married to the most wonderful woman in the world for the past 74 years. He is 98 years on this planet. Got a long way to go, Justin. He has definitely left this earth a better place than he found it. I love that.
I'm in good company. The Queen died at 98. So.
Yeah.
Right.
And so you mentioned you both wrote this 10 years ago. How have you seen this shape the trajectory of your life since you wrote it?
I mean, I'm a very detail-oriented person, and so I can get super worked up about the little things. So I think that's a nice reminder to settle down just a bit.
Simmer down.
Simmer down just a little bit. Because it does kind of help you step back and be like, okay, now, is this really worth getting worked up over, or can we just let it go and move on?
And Justin, how about you?
I think for me, the big takeaway that I got from doing that exercise was not to take it so serious. Like every day was so serious. And I think it was just a reminder of, at the end of the day, in both of our eulogies didn't really have anything to do with the businesses that we ran or the ones that we bought or sold or anything. It was about people and relationships. So for me, I think that was the big takeaway, is just don't take it so serious. Like, it's fun. Which I think sometimes is maybe too easygoing, but
Yeah, really.
for some people,
very on brand with the eulogy. Yeah. Amazing. And so from that, I mean, it's so different right today, like the life that you're living now. I believe recently you had a 75-day RV journey across 9 states. Of course, you have the partnership boat. celebrating another year of life, and just very excited for the next year. And so there's just been a lot of changes with Justin. I think you mentioned like buying, selling businesses, Kristen with the virtual CFO services. There's just been so much that has happened since then. And so I guess currently today, like for you all, like what does life look like? Because for the people who are not currently in the position you're in right now, I think they're also curious on the vision of what they could potentially build in the future. And it seems like you all have arrived there and are continuing to do more. So what does the day-to-day life look like for you nowadays?
Well, considering that we're filming this from the boat on a Friday afternoon, there's that. So as all entrepreneurs, right, they go into business because they want to have more time and financial freedom. And then they realize that they're working more and making less than they ever did when they worked for somebody else. And they go through their crisis mode. And so then it's about trying to find that balance and turning it over into a profitable venture. So now I'm not in the business day to day on a day-to-day basis, but I am in the financial aspect, and I do operate as a CFO of Paradise Home Services, which does plumbing and HVAC. And then I get to spend the rest of my time, well, one being a mom to teenagers, which is super amazing all the time. And the other part of it is helping other businesses in the trades from that virtual CFO standpoint, which is really cool. So I kind of get to enjoy my favorite part of the business with other business owners, and they like it because it's not their favorite part.
Yes.
They don't get excited about numbers like I do. But it's really cool because it allows us to kind of work where we want to work. It allowed us to take that long RV trip when our kids were just at the perfect age where they could remember it. But they weren't trying to get away from us quite yet. And so we pulled them out of school for a semester, put them in online school before the pandemic, before online school was a curse.
Before it was cool.
And we literally went across the country, and our daughter was in 4th grade at the time, and she was studying American geography, essentially. And we were going to the places she was studying about, which was really cool. And it was just an experience that we would not have been able to have if we were employers with somebody, or if we had made different choices in the past. And I think that's probably the most amazing thing about all of this is we are getting to experience that freedom of doing things differently, just not doing the same thing, just being different. It's pretty cool.
I love that. And what a beautiful experience as well. Studying particularly about geography, then actually living that is a very special thing. Like not a lot of people could say that. And that's just incredible. A beautiful picture of, what could be possible. And I'd also love to dig into, so you mentioned your virtual CFO services. Like, what does that look like? Let's say that you run into a business and you're helping them with their books. Like, what does that type of consulting look like when someone is first getting started with you?
So there's a couple different layers of the virtual CFO. The most intense layer would be I train their in-house accounting people. So businesses a lot of times will just rely solely on like a CPA to do their books until they get to a certain point where that doesn't work anymore, where they're too big and they need information faster. But they're sometimes afraid to hire somebody in-house because they don't know how to do the tasks. And so how could they possibly train somebody how to do the tasks that they don't even know how to do themselves? And so I'll take that person and train them how to do their job and make their job description and do all of that. And then they're just basically, they're implanted into that company. I train them how to do everything. And then I'll go over the financial statements with the business owner and kind of provide that oversight so that they can trust the information and trust the person. Because it is tricky to hire somebody, especially somebody that you don't know, to start working in your business in terms of access to bank accounts and paying bills and maybe processing payroll. It's sensitive information. I've seen a lot of business owners who've gotten taken advantage of, which has been super unfortunate. And so providing the training, but also kind of providing that oversight so that they feel confident that there's nothing shady going on. So that's kind of the most intense level. And then there's the middle level is we do that financial review every month. But I also provide some additional support to their accounting team, more from a, hey, maybe we're operating in this certain software and I'm not sure how to do X, Y, or Z. How do I do that? Or I'll work with a business owner and say, hey, we identified some opportunities for improvement based on your financials. So let's do a little bit of coaching outside of that, that review on how we can fix those certain areas. And then the highest level is just a financial review once a month and sitting down and digging in and looking at trends and looking at budgets and looking at things that went well and things that maybe didn't go so well, and just geeking out on all the numbers, which is my favorite part.
Especially because most business owners, we want to talk about what does that top number look like, and what does that bottom percentage look like. And
there's so much more to
it.
And
there's all the in-betweener stuff.
Yeah. Which I'm pretty sensitive to the fact that most business owners, numbers aren't their gig. They don't love spreadsheets, and I get that. And so I try to make things as practical as possible, and I try to make them simple. There's no reason to overcomplicate it if we don't need to. I use lots of graphs and pie charts because they're easier to read than spreadsheets and numbers. And it is nice to be able to take a whole lot of information and just kind of curate it down into bits and pieces that are easy to use and implement in your business.
And that's incredibly valuable. So yeah, for a lot of business owners, well, the general advice is you have to be able to inspect what you expect. That's they talk a lot about that in the Navy, and with a business owner, they have just no idea, right? They're looking at these numbers, it's scary. And it's such an invaluable thing to be able to, it sounds like, build, train, systemize, and also audit, just to make sure that things are going in the right direction, because you don't know, like you said earlier, you don't know what you don't know. And to your point, like, you could get taken advantage of if you aren't careful. And then Justin, I believe you also, so not in addition to being the owner for Paradise, you also do some consulting as well. Is that right?
A little bit. Most of my time right now is spent with Paradise's growth. We sold a plumbing company in 2017. I think 17. We swore we wouldn't do it again.
And here we
won't
are.
do it again. The day our non-compete opened was over. We merged with another company and created Paradise Home Services. That was in 2020. And we went from, 4 to over 40 employees with 2 locations.
Wow.
Since then, in the middle of a pandemic.
And what's cool about that is I have such a great partner, and he is such an integrator.
That's not me.
Yes, she's a partner, but it's pretty cool because, even before, I was having to be the visionary and a lot of times the integrator. And my business partner in that is such a great integrator that it does allow me to kind of stay in my visionary lane.
Yes.
And then he can just make it happen. So it's pretty cool.
That's amazing. And yeah, even both, I was thinking earlier when we're starting that you both are visionary integrator duo. It's so, yeah, I can totally see it. No, that's awesome. So primarily running Paradise at the moment. And I guess one thing to dig in with that is I had a question around, because I think because you've built and sold businesses in the past, you've been able to move out of just being that operator and finding integrators to help you. If you were to give advice to someone who is still making that transition, how could you help coach someone who still is, I want to be the technician and really fill that seat as a business owner or a visionary in their business? Because it seems like it's something that it came natural, but also you just mastered over the years.
I would say the cool thing about owning a business is you can do whatever you want to do, right? If you want to be the technician, be the technician. But at the same time, you have to recognize and acknowledge you're not going to grow that business and you're not going to scale it probably the way you want to. And realistically, if you've got, I would say, I don't know, I'm going to say more than 3 technicians. I'm just throwing that out there. And you're still turning a wrench. Honestly, you're probably doing a disservice to your team by doing that. So if you're not anything you don't want to do in your business, you got to find somebody to do it, because things have to be done.
Mhm.
There's got to be a plan for growth. There's got to be somebody who's implementing and leading. So yeah, if you're going to be honestly, if you want to be a technician that bad, you probably should find a really good company to.
Well, and I don't think that everybody's vision has to be massive, fast
Right.
growth.
True.
However, you have to be able to adapt or die. So you have to be able to have the wherewithal to recognize what's going on inside and outside of your business. And if you are the one turning the wrench all the time, you're going to miss really important cues and you're going to be behind the curveball.
Absolutely.
So you don't have to have massive dreams of $20 million company and sell out to a private equity and this and that. That doesn't have to be your vision. But you do have to be able to pay attention to what's going on in your business.
Yeah.
And if like Justin said, if you do want to be the person that is in the field, then you have to surround yourself with the people who aren't.
Yes. And it's also that resiliency. Let's say that you get sick or something unexpected happens, or, life is so unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
If it is so dependent on you, your business is at a standstill. If you have to be that person, but maybe it sounds like it's just the optionality of being able to, hey, if you want to do it, great. But we've built in redundancies with the team, with the systems in place so that this business can survive without me, whether that's you want to take a vacation or worst case, like something really bad happens and all the people that were depending on you, that you've hired in your business, they're out of work because the owner didn't set things up properly with the systems and a longevity plan. And so yeah, for anyone who's listening, that's definitely something to be thinking about. Build your company to sell, but that doesn't mean you have to sell it, or doesn't mean you have to completely step out, but you have options, because again, life is so unpredictable, just like the ocean that you guys are on, so unpredictable. Awesome. So I guess as I just want to transition to one last topic, and this show is all about financial freedom. So one of the questions I always ask our guests is, what is financial freedom like, and what does that truly mean to you? Because there's so many definitions of what that is.
I'm going to say podcasting on a boat. This is a lot of conversation that we had at the very beginning as we were trying to get our 3-5 year plan. Like, what is it that we really wanted? Because I think that was one thing that we struggled with figuring out, like the why. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we working so many hours? Why are we, not getting sleep? Like, what's the why? And eventually it came down to, we wanted the freedom to do what we wanted to do, and freedom doesn't mean to do nothing. Mm-hmm. But it is really picking out what it is that we love to do. So again, the kids on the RV trip, or, spending time on the boat, or whatever the other things that we get to do, that was really us. Just time freedom. It was the time freedom.
And I will say that we have diversified a lot. We own Paradise Home Services, but we also do coaching, and we also do some real estate investing, and we also, own 2 other businesses. So being able to have the time and financial freedom from one business means that we're able to easily diversify. And then if something, God forbid, tragic happens in one of them, we still have backups to lean on, where it also, there's still a certain amount of hustle, but it's not the life or death hustle. It's the hustle because we want to hustle, Yes. So that kind of makes it a little bit more fun too.
Well, and it's easier to pick whatever opportunities or freedom looks like too.
Yes, that sounds like completely different mindset. In the beginning, it's survival. Like we need to be able to pay payroll, but now it's, okay, I have the abundance. We have a diversified set of assets, and if one goes down, completely fine. And it seems like there's just like a different level of peace that you have, a peace of mind that, it's okay if things go wrong, and we can just, no matter what, choose and chart our destination to, wherever that is for the next few years. And so love that. And what's next? So we got where we're at now. You're diversified right now. So what does the next 3 to 5 year picture look like for the both of you?
Well, 3 to 5 years, we will be totally empty nesters. And so I think the verdict is still out on exactly what that looks like. For me anyway. There's definitely going to be a lot of traveling. We started doing some speaking. So I'm sure that we'll probably incorporate a lot more speaking in different locations when the kids are off to college and Marines and all those fun things. Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be interesting to see what the next few years look like.
I'm excited. It'll be a lot of boat time.
A lot of boat time.
A lot of boat time.
Yeah.
A lot of boat time, a lot of beach time.
That's so exciting. And I can't wait to stay up to date on the journey, and because it's a lot of decisions that are coming up with travel and, becoming empty nesters. There's, from what I've heard, there's just that identity shift, when the kids leave, and who knows? And potentially just reimagine. I mean, what you think now could be completely reimagined later on. So I think that's the beauty of being in control of your destiny and, being able to decide what the future looks like.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So with that, I think we can move to a close. If someone wanted to get in contact with either of you, what would be the best place for them to reach out? Is it email? Is it the website?
We're both on Facebook. My email address is kristen@gcbcoaching.com. I do have a website for the virtual CFO program, which is kristendeese.com. Super easy to remember. And then the book is available on Amazon and Audible.
And how about you, Justin?
Best way to catch me is justin@gcbcoaching.com. And really everything that we've got going on, whether it be the upcoming podcast or the podcast series from the book, you can all get from kristendeese.com as well.
Awesome. And I know you guys are going to some events coming up soon. If anyone else is going to the event, what events will you be at?
Right now we've got Service World coming up in a couple of weeks in Tampa. Hopefully everything's good there.
Yeah.
And then we've got AeriSeal X coming up in March, actually the beginning of March. So anybody who's an AeriSeal dealer, or I think even wanting to become an AeriSeal dealer, is invited to the event, which is actually in Sandestin, which is right down the road from here, which would be pretty cool because we won't have on the boat from there. We will actually take the boat there and stay there. So that's what's coming up in the next, 90 days, whatever that time frame looks like.
90 days. And for anyone, I just want to highlight again the book. It's initially I thought it was just going to be, hey, like if my current business partner is my spouse, I thought that'd only be the relevance. But when I dug in it, I think this is a book that anyone should read. There's a lot of things to do with visioning, with time management, getting your accountability charts in place. I think this is a business book for anyone, regardless of whether your business partner is your spouse or not, and really designing a life of financial freedom and one that you love. And I believe that both of you are great examples of that. The life that you live now, it was intentionally crafted and it wasn't by accident, right? You didn't happen to just fall into this life. Maybe in the beginning there were some things, but since you designed that vision, it's something that you breathed life into. And so that's the seed I want to leave with everyone who's listening, that really it's possible. There's like planting anything, right? There's a seed, you nurture it, there's water, there's sunshine, there's a lot of different things that make this plant grow, but the formula is out there, right? Especially for business, especially for life. And read this book. It's incredible. So if you aren't ready for coaching, start reading this book and really start to build a better path in your life. So, thank you both. This was one of the podcast episodes I was so excited for. Thank you for your time. Again, a first of many things with being on the boat. I appreciate you both. Hope everyone enjoyed. And any last parting words before we head off?
No, I appreciate you inviting us on. It was great to meet you. And where were we? St. Louis?
Yes.
St. Louis for the ACCA event.
Yeah, it was great to meet you. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone. We're going to close it out. Take care, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right. Thanks, John.